Good morning, good evening, and a good afternoon, traders. Steve here at Logic FX Trading, and welcome to another trading room summary where we summarize what we have looked at in our trading room recording. It usually lasts about an hour to an hour and a half, guys, and what we do here is just give you a quick overview. And the main reason for it is really to let you know whether you want to watch the main event or not, whether there's anything in there that you want to know more about. And obviously, for those of you who are subscribers, you'll know that there's an awful lot of explanations and reasoning going on in there, a lot of logic in there as to why things are moving in the direction that they're moving in and where we think they're going to go next, and whether you should try to trade them or not, obviously. So let's just start here with China 50. This is the trend that it's running at the moment, guys. Obviously, as we went through here, we were looking to see if we were going to get another move down. I'm not so sure that correction is going to come anytime soon, whether even if it does come. So I'm looking for this to trade long. I'm not necessarily going to trade it. It's being suppressed at the moment by what's going on in Hong Kong and the threats of sanctions, etc., from the US, and also potentially because there's a lot of other political noise around about whether China was completely open about the virus, etc., etc. So China might not be the your favorite game in town for a little while, but I would prefer to try and treat it that way than this way. On the other markets, we were looking for a drawdown, and that's what we're getting with a little bit of a risk off day today. I don't expect it to suddenly correct away down here somewhere. But what we've been saying over the last week or so is anytime you get a dip, just try and trade it long. You get a dip, try and trade it long. I'm very, very aware that all of these shares are not reflecting what's going on in the economies, but they're still going up, guys. So the idea that we're going to sit and wait for some sort of correction would be silly, because we're missing out on an awful lot of pips and these moving up. So I would start to look for a long trade in this. Maybe you give it a little bit more down. Obviously, if it came down into there, lost my brush there, guys. If it came down into there, it'd be a better bet than trying to go long here. But nonetheless, if this is the new trend, which it possibly is, then we could well look at another push up there in the Aussie. The Nikkei, it's too high at the minute. It needs to come down. We haven't had the correction yet, but it needs to come down yet again for the same reason, to look for a setup to go long. The German as well needs to drop a little bit, possibly a little ending diagonal in there, guys. Needs to drop a bit, and then we look to trade it long. The French, well, we are getting a pullback in the French there, but yet again, it's not enough yet for me. Possibly, listen, let's look at this a little bit closer, because I drew that trend line in there yesterday with the idea that potentially there's two things that could happen here, guys. One is that this is a double top of sorts. I know it's broken through, but these things aren't painted by numbers. They don't work exactly, guys. Possibly an A, B, and you could get a pullback down and then off you go. I don't think that's highly probable. But the other way of looking at it is you forget about that, the previous high, and you look at this on its own. And this is higher probability in my mind than the idea that you're going to get a C wave in there. You look at it on its own and you go, well, 1, 2, 3, and I know that is a bit dubious for an impulsive wave with 5 in it, but yet again, it is an impulsive wave. It just does not have a clear 5 waves in it. Back down for a 2. This is your third wave. If we get a fourth wave in here, maybe a little flat correction, Then you'll get your fifth up there, which could well be a 127 extension. Sorry, let me get my extension over. 127 extension of your third wave, which would put it into there. So that would be a target for that, guys. And for those of you who like to talk in terms of pips, there's 100, 150 pips in there, depending where you get in. If it comes a little bit deeper, obviously there'd be a little bit more. So that's possibly a trade. I wouldn't jump into it yet, but let it pull back. Today seemed to be a bit of a risk-off day. So allow these to drop a little bit today, folks. Maybe into Monday, we'll see what the lay of the land is, and maybe that's when they start to push up. UK as well, you need a bit more of a pullback, possibly into this trend. I wouldn't try and trade it down at this stage. Last week and the week before, I was looking to trade this down because I thought that this was going to be, the start of the second wave down. Turned out wrong, and I ended up losing out on this. Got stopped out because I tried to trade it short from there. Yet again, from here, it could push on up, but it's not likely. It's more likely you'll get a bit of a pullback. If you got the pullback, then I'd look for that trade. Nasdaq's running sideways at the moment, folks. It's come up a long way. That's the previous high. That's how far up it's come. So it's running sideways. I wouldn't touch it at the minute. The S&P, look for a pullback on the S&P, and then once that's happened, we'll look to trade it long. And the Dow Jones as well, guys. You're going to have to wait for some sort of correction of that move up before looking to trade it. The dollar, now, what I've been saying, and any of you who've been listening over the last few weeks, or the last 6 weeks or so, once we had this, I said, listen, don't be looking for the dollar to come away down here. It's going to have a rest. It's going to stay up in this area. Now, we didn't know exactly whether it was going to just run horizontal, or maybe it kind of came up like that before dropping. But we were looking for the dollar to stay up here. And as coronavirus started to lift, as the economy started to open up, then you would see the dollar index starting to drop, because you're getting a risk-on situation. You're getting people coming out of the safe haven aspect of the dollar, and therefore the dollar will start to drop. Now, to be honest, earlier in the week, I was saying that I wasn't convinced that this was the start of the drop. So I was kind of saying, well, it was around there somewhere. And I said, well, if it gives us one more up, then from there I would look to see if it's going to drop out. So I'd start shorting the dollar from there. But it's pushed on down since there, guys, and it's broken that low. So what I'm thinking now is that any pullback in the dollar now, unless it's a big impulse, any pullback in the dollar now could be a fourth wave on this. Now I'll show you what I mean now. If you count that as a 1, 2, and this is maybe a 1, 2, 3, you get a little bit of a pullback for that 5. That'll be your third wave. We'll get a flat maybe over here, and from there we would look to trade the dollar down. Now, obviously, if that isn't what happens, then that's not what we're going to do. If the dollar suddenly starts coming back up like this, then I'll wait for it to get to there, and the next time it starts to drop, then I'll trade the major pairs accordingly. So what do I mean by that? Well, most of you will know, but anyone who's learning, what we mean by that is, in this situation, you'd be looking to trade that long. In this situation, you'd be looking to trade long, but not the pound at the minute. The pound's having Brexit problems. The Aussie, you'd be looking to trade it long. The New Zealand, you would be looking to trade it long. And then on those situations where the dollar's on the other side of the equation, for example, with the CAD, then you'd be looking to trade it short. That's indicating that potential pullback or potential correction on the dollar. And once that's over, the dollar starts to drop, then you'd be looking to trade this down. It may continue to run in a channel, so it might not be impulsive, but there's your trend, guys. Same with the Swiss. Swedish, sorry. There we're looking for maybe a bit of a pullback in the dollar and then on down again. CAD, yen, leave the yen alone because the yen is also a safe haven. It's coming off, so they'll probably just bounce along sideways, guys. Swiss may be a bit the same, where it may just continue this sideways bounce because it's also a safe haven that's coming off. The ruble, if we got a half decent pullback, maybe look to trade the ruble down. A few weeks ago, I was looking to trade the ruble back up again because of weakness in the Russian economy. But the dollar at that stage was holding steady. But if we're going to get the drop in the dollar, then you'd probably be better continuing that to trade it in that route. I don't know if it's going to be a big, great trade or not. Let's have a quick look at oil. We're around 10 minutes. Oil's come up. It's pretty impulsive, guys. So I'm looking for it to either go flat here or pull down, maybe down into that. Maybe that's a fourth wave there. I say maybe because I don't, Elliot isn't painting by numbers, guys. It's a skeleton that you put the rest of your information onto. So as a skeleton, that's probably a fourth wave. There's a high probability from a technical point of view that it would pull back down into that area. But then from there, maybe you look to trade it up. Might not break the top, but you'd get that trade in, and then maybe it comes back. And this may be where the horizontal run is. Because any of you were with me a while back when we were pushing up here, I said, listen, this is going to run horizontally. Now, I said that I wasn't sure it would run horizontal there, or maybe from there, but we're looking for a horizontal run on oil because we're not at that point yet where the demand is such that it's outstripping supply. That's the only reason that it would go long, folks. So that's off the cards for the meantime. So you're looking to bounce along here. And then you can trade the CAD, the ruble, and the Norwegian krona accordingly. If you don't want to trade the oil, because it's high cost to trade oil, guys, high fees. But if you wanted to trade oil, in proxy, then you can look at those currencies. Okay, guys, that will do for today. That'll do for the weekend. Speak to you again on Monday. Bye for now. And by the way, anyone that's listening on TradingView or where else do we have this? Twitter, TradingView, YouTube, or even on my website, feel free to ask questions, guys. I don't mind, even if you're a beginner. If you have any questions about what I'm saying here, I'll gladly answer them for you. Okay, bye for now, folks.